Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Josh Funk. I'm bringing you a very, very exciting episode of the Strength and Knowledge podcast. Although I have lived in relative proximity to this person for a little while, sometimes it's not until you meet somebody on social media that you start to realize that when COVID and some of the restrictions and certain things in place are all said and done, that we're going to need to definitely have a face-to-face meeting here. But it wasn't really until Twitter where I've gotten to know and become a little bit more familiar with Dr. Monique Caruth. She is the owner of Fyzio for You. She also wears a ton of different hats for the APTA, and we'll certainly touch on a lot of that. But welcome, Monique.
Oh, thank you, Josh. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So one of the things we always try to do is really just paint a picture of the path to the profession. So if you don't mind, share a little bit about what it was like for you to eventually decide on PT as a profession and where you've gone to get to the point where you're at today.
Well, I am from the Caribbean, and I'm not sure if many people are aware of the cultural significance of like African and Caribbean parents. They typically want their kids to pursue medicine, engineering, or law. And I was around 12 when I first realized that I wanted to become a physiotherapist. I was watching a cricket game with my family, and one of my favorite players got injured. And I saw this guy run out on the field with a big bag, and he did a couple stuff, and the player was back up, and I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. So I started asking around about, what is a physiotherapist? I got very limited answers. So I started going through my Britannica encyclopedia, again, limited information. But that feeling never left me. That's what I wanted to do. So in high school, I decided to take a science track and then looked more into it. Fortunately for me, in my last year of high school, there was an Indian physiotherapist who came to work at the local hospital, and I got the opportunity to ask her some questions, and she told me that she had to study in England and how she got her degree, and I was like, okay, this is what I wanted to do. So I started looking at areas where I could study, and at the time, the University of West Indies Mona campus in Jamaica was the only university in the West Indies that offered anything related to physical therapy, but it was equivalent to an associate's degree. I knew I wanted to be further than just having an associate's degree. I always had a business mind, a hustle mentality. So I looked at other countries. So the US came to mind, Canada came to mind, and England also came to mind. So it would have been easier probably to go to Canada or England based on my place of birth, which was Trinidad and Tobago. However, I looked at the vast opportunities that I could possibly have in the US, and I looked into schools, the cost, taking the SATs. So I was also athletically gifted. I was an all-around student. So I chose to use my athletic abilities to land me a scholarship. And I got a soccer scholarship fully paid, tuition and fees. And that started my journey here in 1999.
For the Campbell Camels, right?
Yeah,
Campbell
yes.
Camels? Yeah.
Fighting. Yeah.
There you go. I was down there a little bit last year for a young man that I spent some time just, getting to know. I've got younger brothers, and he plays football for Monmouth, and they played against Campbell. So that's my first, introduction to the Fighting Camels. But after you got done playing soccer, and you went through, that 4-year degree, what was the selection like in terms of choosing a program that best fit you?
Okay, so I spent 2 years at Campbell. I was pursuing exercise science with an emphasis on kinesiology. I got homesick when I was in North Carolina. Campbell is located in Buies Creek, which is about 30 minutes outside of Raleigh, Durham, and about 45 minutes from Fayetteville, but it was very quiet. I didn't have that familiarity around me. And when I was not with my team traveling or playing, it was really, I don't want to use the word boring, but I got to spend a lot of time with myself.
It's out there a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I transferred to Howard. Before I did that transfer to Howard, I looked up their program. So at the time when I did the research, they were offering that you would do 3 years in undergrad and then transition to do 3 years to get your master's degree, but they were trying to work on getting the DPT degree. So I transferred hoping that I would have completed that 3 years undergrad, then transition into the PT program. Unfortunately, got changed where they didn't get to do the DPT. So I graduated with my master's in physical therapy from Howard. After going there, I did graduate with my bachelor's first in health science. And I returned to Howard in 2012 to complete my transitional doctorate, because then I realized that I really wanted to do my own thing and have my own practice. And to be better at marketing, I decided that it would probably be best to have the clinical doctorate versus the master in physical therapy. So
yeah,
that's what.
And that makes sense. I mean, and before we go down that whole different entrepreneurial track, I do want to talk a little bit more about Howard University and just some of the things that I know that you're passionate about, and some of the things that really I think have been in the limelight for society this year. Speaking from a position where we were doing certain things intentionally with regards to inclusivity and providing a path for internship to the profession, knowing that we needed to be a little bit more strategic. So we've, fortunately formed a rotation, a setup for Howard University students to come to us, knowing that we need to provide more opportunities for, honestly, like minorities to experience the profession and to have very, very high level opportunities to ideally be the best possible professionals that they can be at the end. And I feel like we were doing a decent job, but honestly, when you peel back the layers and you start to really be a little bit more objective, there was more that we could do. So for people out there that are being more aware, they're reflecting more, maybe they're in a position where they can make decisions or at least recommendations surrounding inclusivity and really increasing representation in our field. What are some general recommendations you have, or maybe some more specific ones?
First of all, I really want to thank you for your company doing that. When I first found out that you guys were doing it, because one of the students mentioned to me that she was getting placed at Rehab to perform, I was like, really? I was like, that's great. So I meant to reach out to you to tell you thank you. So
we have our first student, Alexis.
Yes,
she's been awesome.
She's really excited about it, because she really does want to pursue sports therapy, and I think that was the perfect place for her to go to actually have her last clinical. So I truly appreciate companies like yours who want to reach out to HBCUs and create opportunities for minority students, because it's competitive to get placement for clinicals, and it's also difficult for minority students, especially if you're attending an HBCU, to get placed in a high-level competitive setting. And this clinical rotation being offered by your company and other companies is pretty crucial, because it's showing us that you really want to engage in community and you truly do believe in diversity, because you didn't have to do it. I also want companies to try to do mentorship. So if they're not even doing a clinical rotation, like probably go to a program and do a lecture or two, show your presence, talk about your skill set, what you guys do, so they can have an idea that, hey, this too is possible. for me to do. When I was in school, I sought out a lot of entrepreneurs in outpatient PT, and I asked a lot of questions. I was like, what motivated you to do this? Why did you do this and stuff like that? Unfortunately, the majority of people that I spoke to were minority business owners, whether they're Hispanic or Black. I didn't really get to reach out to Caucasian business owners. So I just got feedback from them. So if companies that are owned by you do that, it would also encourage a lot of minority students to pursue that track as well too.
Yeah, and I think that's important, and something I've also at least just been more mindful of, and I would recommend other people out there to do the same, but looking upstream too. How can we, lock arms with undergraduate programs that are also, pre-physical therapy? Morgan State has a pre-physical therapy program that I only learned recently. What are your thoughts on engaging students, though, in, say, middle school and high school, and providing, and really, I guess I should say, painting a picture so that they can see themselves within not only physical therapy, but healthcare as a whole, knowing that representation of minorities in healthcare is something that we still struggle with, and oftentimes it does align with outcomes.
Well, one of the things we're definitely seeking and doing in our mentorship program with the APTA of Maryland is to actually start at middle school level, because that's when most students tend to make career-defining decisions about what they want to do. And also with pre-physical therapy programs, a lot of schools are requiring people to have volunteer hours. So if companies can make themselves available to provide those hours to students, have students being techs at least and learning, different exercise skills and doing paperwork, office paperwork, that would greatly help. So they're around the environment and they can see what is going on and get a better picture of it. So doing career days, well, we know the schooling has changed with virtual learning, but when things get back to somewhat normal, for companies to go, take a day, go and talk to students, at various middle schools throughout Maryland or within your county at least. And like in Maryland, we have districts. So I think Montgomery County falls under the Western District. Yep. So there are five counties usually associated with a district. So if your company tends to fall in line with that district, I would say, reach out to the school principals or school counselors and go out and give a talk during career day to let them know. And probably invite, like I know you were very active with youth sports. Another thing that I've been trying to do is, what I know for the local high school near where I'm located, Charles Flores High School, I've done like sponsorship for their football program and their basketball program to let people know that, hey, we have physical therapy. I've also even offered to provide free services when they have games. I'll just go sit there. If someone gets injured, work with them, stuff like that. So providing services like that, even getting students involved to be on the sideline when youth games are occurring, so people can be aware that, hey, physical therapy, athletic training, it's available.
And then if we take this topic and, we kind of tie in a little bit of representation and then outcomes, healthcare outcomes, one of the things that we've realized a ton this year is just that we're still lagging behind with regards to addressing social determinants of health. COVID has really, really exposed that. Although we have probably limited research right now with COVID and its impacts, there has been some very, very strong statistics to support that once again, we are putting people in a situation, the minorities in the communities, especially, if I look at Montgomery County and we look at Silver Spring, just the numbers there, we're still just lagging behind. What are you seeing with regards to, say, home health, subacute settings that I know that you're a little bit more involved in? and where would you look to make changes with regards to some of these social determinants of health and maybe approaching people's rehabilitation processes with a little bit more of a holistic view?
Okay, well, in terms of home health, we can be somewhat limited because in PG County, we had some of the highest rates in Maryland. And in a lot of the homes, you have multi-generational households. So you will have someone who's an essential healthcare worker or essential worker working at a grocery store, and they're coming home and their grandmother or grandfather is there. Then you probably have a parent who has underlying medical conditions. So can be easily spread. So some of those things we can't really factor in, but if we were aware that it became so obvious that people with underlying medical conditions are at greater risk of suffering worse with a disease such as COVID, what I'm hoping we can do as a profession is try to push people to becoming healthier individuals, to making better choices, and to have those choices be made easier to make. It's hard depending on where you live to say, hey, get out, go walk a mile and stuff like that, because if it's not a safe neighborhood, that will be difficult. There was one point in time, a lot of outpatient clinics were offering people who were patients there to come back in and just do like a monthly rehab, well, like a subscription fee. And this could be a proposal that I have. Like if I own a facility and I know there's a downtime with certain hours, I can offer people in certain communities to come in, spend 30 minutes on the bike, 30 minutes on the treadmill. It's giving them a safe environment to actually do that and do it pro bono, or have someone provide a grant to offset the cost of you having someone there to supervise them, basically. So that's one thing. In terms of home health, I think there are a lot of stresses with people in the home. Not being able to manage their medications properly, not being able to manage their health conditions properly. Getting insulin is expensive for some, even to get the test strips is expensive. So a lot of people don't have it, so they aren't aware of what their glucose level is, and that just offsets a lot of stuff. I've had situations where I've had to come out of pocket and get things for patients to make sure that they stay out of the hospital. And I've even thought of, setting up something besides the business where equipment that patients would need to make their lives better inside the home, we can provide. I looked around in the state of Maryland. I know there's one in Montgomery County. I think it's something called Something Closet, where people who've used equipment can donate it, and you can use it, take it and take to another home where it's needed. So something like that I would like to establish to make things easier for patients in the home, and making sure that they're eating a cardiac diet that they're supposed to, reducing sodium intake, that sort of stuff. So whatever we can do as owners or within the profession that won't be too taxing for us, we can create programs to help with that. So those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah, no, and I love that. And I think it's so multifactorial, but recognizing, I think, the two big things, like one, okay, some of the social safety nets in place are clearly, they have holes in them, right? We are still not doing what we can to kind of bring the bottom up, so to speak. And then some things just surrounding misinformation. Sometimes people don't have the information that they need to actually make decisions with clarity surrounding their personal health. So some of the things that we've just tried to be better at is, supporting people with resources while they are with us, whether or not that's in person, or actually we've tied in some of the diagnosis codes that people will have with their visits, to be tied to an email drip campaign. So they're getting general wellness focused. There's everything from sleep to nutrition to mindfulness and stress management, so that every single person that walks through the doors is going to get supplemental information that is a little bit more holistic in nature. But the question that I've had is, how can I make sure that this information, which is only afforded to the people who happen to be walking through the doors here, then becomes something that's a little bit more easy to disseminate to people everywhere in the county. So that's just kind of one of those things where, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but
have you done any health fairs?
I have done health fairs. And honestly, I got inspired this year and I jumped on a board. It's called the Primary Care Coalition. It is strictly targeted at serving the underserved with regards to healthcare. I've gotten a lot of, I've had some positive conversations surrounding actually looking at outcomes and making sure that okay, all of this stuff sounds great. The mission's great. The objectives are great, but are we actually accomplishing anything? I don't want to use the word like performative. I know that's been thrown around a lot this year, but really getting down to like things that are measurable. And I just use that because we've been a lot more, aware and reflective about our initiatives and our efforts about whether or not we're actually getting it. We had to kind of go, you know what? We're falling short. So coming into this organization and just trying to make sure that I'm putting my business owner hat and maybe providing some fresh perspective in terms of how to look at that stuff, because they're in so many different areas, so many different professions are involved. They're in Silver Spring, they're in Montgomery Village, some of these communities that have been definitely a lot more impacted, but, recognizing things even like food deserts, which I had very, 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 very little exposure to until I've started to, just learn a little bit more about it this year. So, but it's one of those things where I'm trying to find a way to get some of the good stuff that we have in here and figure out how do you share it,
Well, definitely, health fairs is one of them. A lot of local churches actually do have their own health fairs as well too, that you can attend. So they do invite local business owners to come in and provide stuff. I know, like at my church, we do have a health committee where we do screenings, so like blood pressure and diabetes and stuff like that. They come in. It's like one time a year they come in, they will do that. So congregants who are usually like nurses, doctors, therapists, we're available to members of the congregation. For me, one of my measurable outcomes for home health is that after discharge, if a patient stays out of the hospital 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, for me, that's a positive outcome, because the things that we implemented kept that patient from going back into the hospital. So you might have your own performance tracking, but if you're realizing that someone that you've impacted by giving that information to is, maintaining weight or losing weight, or they don't have a higher A1C as they did before, or their blood pressure is, regulated. Those are things that I consider to be a win, because they're moving on a healthier track.
Absolutely. I mean, and then you're talking about some of these metrics, and we're talking about how they apply to people in the communities that we serve. You also been pretty transparent just about your own personal health journey this year. I love your check-ins on Twitter, right? I mean, I don't know if that's just to kind of hold yourself accountable, or if you have other people that are kind of doing this with you, but share a little bit about your journey this year and kind of some, reflection that you've gone through and really trying to better yourself.
Well, pretty much I was on track, exercising every day. I was losing weight, eating healthier. There was 1 month where I didn't eat any meat. I thought I was going to die, but it turned out to actually be great.
I would die personally. So
I felt like I had so much more energy. I was more alert. I was sleeping better. My digestive system was better. So there was some pluses to it. And then my dad unexpectedly passed away in February, and it was basically like a shock to me, because I was like, man, this is one of the healthiest guys that I've ever known. I mean, every day he was doing something active. So dealing with grief is one of those things that we never really pay attention to and how it affects us mentally and physically, and even emotionally. So I didn't really have that zeal to go out and do that exercise. I was like, what's the purpose? I mean, this is a guy that was eating healthy, doing stuff, and just, I mean, he's dead. Like, it was a shock. So it took me some time to get back into the flow of things. So it affects people differently because my sisters continued exercising. My mom was one who exercised every morning, so she didn't miss a beat. So, but it took me a while. I just had to get adjusted to things. And even, while treating patients, I would look at certain things and be like, wow, how come I was able to help my dad the way I'm helping, someone else recover from like a fall or like a brain injury and stuff like that. So it did take its toll on me, but I'm back. Walking my 5 miles a day and trying to eat a bit healthier. I do have cheat days some days. Today will be one of them.
First, I mean, I just want to say,
I've already had some corned beef since I've been here. You can't come to Ohio and not have corned beef, right?
No, not at all. No, I mean, I want to say, obviously, I'm very sorry to hear of your loss. I can imagine that's been very, very challenging for you. I do know you're on vacation, so as you should, enjoy yourself a little bit. It's interesting, you kind of bring up the mental health piece. And I think that's something that we have gotten more and more comfortable speaking to. I know you have your LeBron James jersey on, which I love. I'm a big LeBron fan. Dak Prescott was also very, very transparent, the Cowboys quarterback, recently about his own personal struggles in the offseason. Unfortunately, there's a particular commentator out there that had some very, very negative remarks.
You talking about Skip Bayless?
Man, oh, man. You just sit there and you're like, seriously? Like, how does that even register as something? Okay, maybe you thought that, but then you actually thought it was good to communicate and that was going to be well received. So that's neither here nor there. But I think relating to the mental health side of things, knowing that you are trying to be so many different things, you are wearing a bunch of different hats, and you're trying to be at your best. The piece that I can say that I've recognized as an entrepreneur is that if I am not doing my best to invest in myself, it is so much harder for me to invest in the other things in my life, the people, the communities, the organizations. You are somebody who definitely is out there, like you mentioned, hustle and grit in previous conversations. What have you noticed about investing in your personal health and how that's allowed you to do some of these different things, maybe to a higher level this year?
Well, growing up in the household that I grew up in and our culture, especially, and this is something that needs to be pointed out, in Black culture, getting mental health counseling is usually frowned upon. We are told that, we need to pray and, ask God to show us the path and stuff like that. So I went on that for a while, but I realized it wasn't enough. So I decided to invest in getting counseling. So I did start talking to a mental health professional to start dealing with grief and working through that, and even to work on like anxiety. As you said, I wear a lot of different hats, and sometimes it's a challenge to always be performing at your best when you're at a certain level. If you are a natural born hustler, and most entrepreneurs are, you're always on the go. You want to get to the next level faster and and quicker, but you do need to have balance. You do need to have some stability, and you do need self-care. So I started incorporating stuff like hiking, rowing, just taking the weekends to just do outdoor stuff. Because for me, I felt so much calmer when I was like out on the water, just being away, just listening, surrounded by trees and hearing that stuff. So it was very calming for me. And I felt that I was doing some of my best work that following week after I rested and just use that weekend to do stuff. So I would advise people to get a coach. If you do need to talk to a mental health professional, it's great. I also would encourage people to have a very close inner circle that's supportive and encouraging, and will challenge you. You know, it's often said that you shouldn't be the smartest person in the room because that's not a good group. There is some truth to that. So, you know, you talk to people that would say, hey, you know, I got your back. We need to do this. We need to do that. And the love of family is very crucial as well too. So even though my family they're not here, we talk every day via video conference. So it's like they're here. And they usually detect, like, they're like, yeah, you look tired, you need to do this, you need to do that sort of stuff. So
it is so funny you mentioned that. The person that does that to me the most is my mom. My mom will just flat out go, you haven't been sleeping enough. You need to stop working so much, you know? And I'm like, oh, well, thanks, Mom. That's a nice way to say I'm looking not so good, right?
Yeah.
I'm not looking so hot right now. But tying in, I mean, the mental health piece, I mean, I can definitely relate as an entrepreneur. I mean, I went through a period where, you know, I mentioned this in a previous podcast with Jared Maynard, but I was living on anxiety and adrenaline, like the adrenaline of just running a business, and you're constantly feeling like you have to be on, and then you're getting anxious about looking at stuff like the books and trying to wear all of these different hats. It was not until I actually sought out a mental health professional for the first time where I actually could put things together in terms of why I was behaving the way that I was, certain things that I maybe was not handling quite as well that was either, you know, going on during that time or potentially previously, but I can't recommend it enough. So I'm with you. Sometimes just getting that person without any bias, you know, even people outside of your family to provide some perspective to you. Sometimes it's just that you go there and they just ask really, really good questions and they help you figure it out, which I think is it's gold, you know, it's gold. So what, just to kind of put a bow on today's discussion, there's a lot of conversation about the APTA and APTA dues and people kind of being in a situation where they're, you know, feeling like they're, you know, not sure. Medicare cuts are going on, right? There are things that involve advocacy for our profession moving forward. For me, I'm just a big believer in the brand, and I know that sometimes the brand itself just needs dollars. You're tremendously involved in the APTA. You really, it seems like you've been a member since you've been in PT school. So talk to me and maybe some of the people out there that are having some doubts and are maybe a little bit uncertain of the value of the APTA and where they can potentially insert themselves like you have.
Well, it was mandatory for us to be APTA members while at Howard during the PT program. And I will be totally honest with you, I did allow my membership to lapse after I graduated. Because as I said, I was explaining to Jerry Durham, who I had met on Twitter, and he was in DC one time, and he shoot me a direct message, and he's like, hey, I'm in your area. And I'm like, you're in my area? He's like, yeah, I'm in DC. You want to meet up? And I was like, sure. So that's how that happened. And we were sitting there and he was telling me about the benefits of the APTA. And I flatly told him that I honestly didn't really see the value of being a member anymore, because it wasn't like I felt they were fighting for things that I was passionate about or represented me. And he was like, no, just give it a try, get involved. And he encouraged me to renew the membership. I said, okay, I'll give it a try. I did. And then I attended CSM in Anaheim and went to a few talks. And that alone just reinvigorated the feeling of, you know, this actually makes sense. You know, if you become part of this and, you know, you inject some of your passion and your energy into it, it will probably inspire other people to rejoin or join. I know that a lot of people want the APTA to be more of a voice in avoiding cuts. the truth of the matter is the country is in a lot of debt. They're going to try to find ways in which to save money. Unfortunately, a reimbursement for rehab is one of them. But it takes money for the APTA to be advocating on our behalf. And part of that comes with membership and paying membership dues. I don't think the American Medical Association struggles that much to get physicians to be members of their organization. I'm not sure what, because even with the APTA of Maryland, I've been trying to help increase membership, especially in my district, which is predominantly minority PTs. And I get asked that question, like, what are they going to do for me? So we're trying to show, because we're having a virtual live event on Facebook on Monday at 9, so you could tune in. But we're trying to show that we are committed as a chapter to have our chapter represent the people that we serve, the members, like the therapists and also the clients.
It's a DEI talk, right?
Yes, it's a DEI talk.
Yep.
The APTA is now offering a Centennial Scholarship for diversity leadership. So there are steps being taken to show value. Their members fighting the cut. So you see the Fight the Cut campaign. There was a campaign to help people make the choice of choosing physical therapy over opioids. So all of those things cost money. And the thing is, if people say that the APTA doesn't represent the things that I want, how are we to know what you want if you're not a member and you're not voicing what is it that, you want us to help you fight for? Because a lot of us are willing to listen to ideas and opinions and work on them. So one of the things that, because I never saw myself being on a board committee. That was never my plan. I just wanted to work and make my money and do whatever I wanted to do. But putting yourself in a place where decisions are being made and policies are being made gives an advantage to represent views that align with what you think. So like someone like you, if you're on a committee, knowing that you want to have people that have better wellness and health and stuff like that, it's going to help tremendously, because it broadens your horizon and just thinking PT.
Absolutely. And I think a quote that will always stick out for me, it's hard to change the game when you're on the sideline. So if you want to change the game, and really it's the game surrounding some of the different challenges that are going on in our profession and in healthcare, then you really you gotta jump in, you gotta get off the sidelines, you gotta jump into the situation, ask the right questions, try to align yourself with the right people, continually find ways to push the needle, so to speak. Yeah. So, I definitely see a big value in it. This past year, we added a sports residency, right? How do we continue to find different areas of our profession that we can continue to elevate things? I'll give you a little shout out here before we wrap up, but you right? And I'm crossing my fingers for you. We had recent elections for the home health sections. You were nominated as a secretary. So I wish you the best, and I'm hoping for some big news here soon.
Well, yes. So we're still awaiting the results. So we'll see.
Yep. All right. Well, hopefully, I wish you the best. But Monique, just to wrap up today, tell people a little bit about where they can stay connected to you or reach out to you.
Well, I'm pretty active on social media, especially Twitter, at Fyzio for You. Sometimes my tweets can be a little bit controversial, like my most recent one, but I deliberately did that on the eve of National Physical Therapy Month for people to try to look at things from the perspective that the decisions we make not just apply to when a person is in the clinic or in a hospital, but it impacts when they're out in their communities as well too. And we have to think about the bigger impact, if it is our role to be valuable stakeholders in transforming society and making it healthier and better.
And I think that ties in with a conversation we had about the holistic aspect of viewing the individual and making sure that we are making decisions that align policy that goes beyond healthcare towards supporting some of the individuals who we're trying to go above and beyond to support, who are already underserved. Is that fair?
Yes, that is fair. Totally.
Okay, and then and then your Twitter, it's FYZIO, the number 4U, correct?
Yep.
Just the letter U. So
yep. Same on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook, but yeah.
Yeah, well, we got it. So Monique, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated the conversation. And like I said, we got to get together sometime soon.
Oh, yes. Very soon. All right.
Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.